Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop game day faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hello and welcome back to Just Films and That, the podcast where we discuss films that we feel may be underrated, underappreciated, or we just wanted to talk about them. You may have seen from our social media, but Adam and Al have moved on to other projects, so do make sure you check out their social media for any updates. However, I am very excited to welcome my new co-host. We have heard from her before, and she enjoyed it so much she only bloody came back permanently, and now I can't get rid of her. So, Alice Oliver, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Josh. And yourself?
I'm very good. Excited to have you aboard.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Not only am I excited to announce the arrival of Alice, but I'm also very excited to tell you that we will now be running the episodes weekly. Instead of as a series. The format won't change. We're still going to be talking all things underrated films, only now it's going to be shorter and more often. We're still hoping to have some great guests on, as we already have had. We're also hoping to get stuck into some classic films as well that one of us might not have seen, just to kind of keep the well from drying up. There's only so many underrated films in the world. Having said that, we'd also like to hear from you. So do give us a bell. It's filmsandthatpod at gmail.com if you have a suggestion, and we will cover them. Well, depending on what you suggest.
Yeah, if they're shit films, don't bother.
Yeah, don't suggest any old shit. All right. So anyway, without further ado, let's crack on. Alice, we do usually do a random question at this point, since it's the first episode, since we're getting to know you. We know you love Keanu Reeves. Keanu.
He's my man.
But tell us a little bit more about your relationship with film.
So when I was very, very young, I thought I wanted to be an actor. I was like, I was about 3 years old watching Coronation Street, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be an actor. And then as I got a bit older, started doing a bit more kind of behind the scenes stuff, started, doing more directing, more writing, being on the camera, behind the camera. I found that just much more fascinating and much more engaging. So I sort of started veering down that route, studied film at university down in Southampton, which was a fantastic experience. Did TV production, MA at Chester, somewhat. And now that I work in television as well, so it's always been there for me. It's always been a particular interest, just what's on screen and performances in general, whether it's music video, film, television. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to get to say what I think about a bunch of films.
So you've gone from wanting to be in front of the camera to being behind the camera to now being behind a microphone, talking about being behind the camera.
Absolutely. I'm a woman of many talents.
Someone once said to me that they saw me as being someone from behind the camera, not in front of it, because I also wanted to be an actor for a bit. And what I think they were saying was, you're not good looking enough or tall enough to be an actor. But anyway, I took it as it was meant, which was that I was ugly and short. So I have picked the first film of the new continuous series, if you will. I've went with the Mask of Zorro, which is from 98 or 99, I think. If you haven't seen it, obviously, spoiler for that one. Little kind of synopsis for you. Antonio Banderas plays a young thief who is seeking revenge for the death of his brother, and in doing so is kind of trained and meets an older Zorro, played by Anthony Hopkins. He trains him to be the new Zorro. Lots of swashbuckling in shoes. That's basically the story. Alice, had you seen this one before?
I hadn't seen this
You
one
hadn't seen this before?
No, I hadn't.
That surprises me.
Oh, really?
It's a big film. However, one of the reasons I did pick it is because I do think it probably is slightly underseen.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason I picked this is because I think it is and I'm hoping you don't like piss and chips now, but I think it is kind of the perfect old school swashbuckling cinema blockbuster type thing. And I think it's kind of forgotten because after it, almost in the years after it came, like The Mummy, and that was all about the special effects. It was huge. And then you had like Pirates of the Caribbean, and then we start to catch ourselves up then. But I think it's kind of forgotten. But I think it's like a really old school, great stunts, great action, old school blockbuster. It's also the only film that I have not finished in the cinema.
What, did you leave the cinema?
I left the cinema because I went to see it when it came out. It's a PG. But I went to see it with my grandparents when I was, however old I was, 8 or 9. And the bit where, spoilers, he cuts his brother's head off and then it's in the bag on the side of the horse, for some reason, absolutely shit me up.
Oh, no,
and my
really?
grandparents took me out.
Oh,
and I think it was like hyper on sugar and hyper on going to the cinema.
Maybe.
And
then you're in a dark room and you've got to sit still.
And I've never finished this in the cinema, so I had unfinished business with this film.
Ah, okay. So was this like your first rewatch since that time?
Oh, no.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
it's a film I really love. Now I thought because it's a new series, I'd start off with something that's kind of light-hearted, breezy, and that I was very fond of.
It's funny that you say light-hearted and breezy, though, because some of the violence in it is, I mean, it's spectacular. Some of the stunts, like you say, like it's really pantomime-esque and kind of like with old hints of Western and obviously swashbuckling, like you say. But yeah, I thought the stunts and some of the action scenes really, really stood out. Very impressive.
I think so. I think the particular standout is obviously the sword fighting is great. And there's chase on the horses.
Oh, so there were a lot of horses in this film. A lot of horses.
I was only saying to someone the other day, I can't believe that, and I'm fairly certain this is right, but there was a bit where he's riding 2 horses.
Yes.
Stood on them.
Yes.
With one leg on each horse.
Yes.
And he jumps over a log and lands on the horses. I'm fairly certain that someone did that.
I think so, because it's clearly not Antonio Banderas. It is clearly a stunt double.
Yeah.
You can see it in his face.
And to be fair to him, it is one of the only times when it is clearly a stunt double.
Because he did want to do a lot of his own stunts. But they're so dangerous. Like,
a lot of the time.
Can't imagine a studio ever letting. That's like when Tom Cruise wants to do his own stunts. It's like, no, you can't. You're too valuable. You're the star.
Yeah, you're literally the reason people are going to watch this.
Yeah, you cannot smash your face in.
Imagine being the producer. Antonio came to see me today. Come in, sit down. I've read your memo, Antonio, about wanting to do the stunts. Absolutely not.
No chance.
No, I'm sorry. Paid you 15 million quid for this, sunshine.
Yeah.
There's no way you're jumping. But no, so what did you think?
So you know what? I had a good time. It was enjoyable.
Exactly.
So the costumes were great. The setting was good. Antonio Banderas is wonderful. Anthony Hopkins, what a treat. So I didn't know.
Tonys.
I didn't know he was in it. Because
Did you not?
I thought it was a very Antonio Banderas centric film. So I didn't really have much knowledge of it, I suppose. I knew it was the Mask of Zorro. I had a very vague idea of what that meant and who Zorro was. And so I thought it was just his story. But it's actually really Anthony Hopkins' story.
It really is,
He's
yeah.
so brilliant in it. Like really kind of serious, but brings some humor to it as well. And just very like prominent stance on him. He's often got his foot on something like a box or a rock. So he's sort of like towering above everyone else, or like he's got a cigar or what could be a spliff. I can't really tell, often hanging out his hand.
He can do what he wants.
Or a drink, like just like super casual, but like super powerful at the same time.
Yeah, he is brilliant in it. And he's in it just as much, if not, maybe not more. Equally, he's got equal footing. It's a story of 2 Zorros, him and Catherine Zeta-Jones, 2 Welshies.
Oh, Anthony Hopkins, sorry, yeah.
Anthony
I was
Hopkins.
like, I thought you meant, my brain processed that as Antonio Banderas, and like, I don't think so.
And Anthony Hopkins, Catherine Zeta-Jones, father and daughter, 2 Welshies.
Yeah,
Did that for you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Josh.
But no, I do. I think it's brilliant. I think it's probably old school swashbuckling. Like the action scenes are great, and it's quite long. It's probably like 2 hours and 20, something like that. And there is kind of non-stop action throughout of it. I think it does that thing which a lot of blockbusters do really well, which is it's funny in moments. Like there's a lot of kind of within the swashbuckling. There's a lot of slapstick of like. So Zorro has that thing, which is he's obviously a character from the 30s or 20s when silent cinema was around, and Zorro was always smiling. So if you look in the film, they pay homage to that by having whoever is Zorro at the time, whether it be Anthony Hopkins in the early stages of the film, Antonio Banderas in the later stages of the film, always smiling. He's literally like, he's always cheeky, he's always like slapping a guy on the arse with a sword instead of stabbing him. And I love that. It's kind of, like you say, it is quite violent in places. However, a lot of it is cartoony, cheeky stunts, and I really like that. You know, there's, like you say, slapstick. There's bits where he tries to jump from the roof onto his horse and misses. And I know it's daft, I know it's childish, but I think those beats keep blockbusters light and breezy, and that's what I want from a film. That's what I want from a film like this. It's entertainment, it's escapist, and that's what this is. I think blockbusters these days, a lot of them can be almost a little too intelligent. For example, I watched Interstellar the other day, and it's a huge achievement by way of filmmaking and what it does. The score, the subject matter it deals with. Have you seen Interstellar?
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
But I do think, I don't know if every movie going person would go in and come out of Interstellar feeling A, satisfied, and B, entertained, and also have a complete grasp of what's going on. And I'm not saying people are stupid, but I think that there's a lot to be said for just entertaining an audience.
But interesting though, because obviously there is like this slapstick and comedic element, but the backdrop is very serious, and what's going on is very serious. This fight for an independent state of California. Is that historically accurate? Is
so
what's
I believe,
going on?
I don't know 100%, but yes, California, that side of it. So Santa Ana, the general they're talking about, is a real person. Zorro and Harrison Love are based. Harrison Love is the younger bad guy. Harrison Love was a real person, and the guy who it was. Zorro is meant to be a real person. So it's meant to be someone called Joaquin Murrieta, I believe. And Joaquin Murrieta is his brother. So they're called Alejandro and Joaquin Murrieta in the film. So I believe I don't think it was like it is in the film.
No, like loose elements.
But loosely it's based on a bandit who would like help people out and would fight for what he perceived as right. So, but the political backdrop of the battle for kind of between Spain and America and Mexico and all, I think that is probably takes some liberties. But I think the idea of California being independent is something that has gone on back in the day when America was a very young country. Because I also believe that some mad statistic, like if California was a country, it'd be like still the 5th richest country in the world.
Yeah.
It's something crazy.
Self-sustaining, yeah.
It's pure fairy tale escapism, right down to the almost pantomime villains. Like the two villains in it, because I like that they mirror Zorro and the two Zorros. So there's an older villain who is Anthony Hopkins' villain, and a younger villain who is Antonio Banderas' villain. But they are so like mustache twirlingly evil to the point of like locking children up to dig for gold for free.
And there's a brilliant moment, sorry to interrupt you, but so they've got the guy's head, his brother's head, haven't they?
Yeah.
And it's in a jar and it's on a
pickled,
table and it's
yeah.
pickled and he drinks some of the head water.
It's
I was
crazy.
like, baller. That is one of the sickest things I've seen.
It's mate's hand.
Yeah.
As well as his 3-finger mate's hand. But no, I know it's daft. And I know that in this day and age we kind of have a post 9/11 realistic. Everyone is kind of a rip-off of the Joker, and they're all anarchic terrorists who believe in nothing and have no. But I just like that they just want money, and it's just old school. You don't have to think about what they're doing. You just know they're evil because they're very mustache twirling. I hate you, Zorro. Some of the lines, it is so cheesy. It's actually written by the same two guys, I believe, who wrote Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, I think, or maybe all of them, but either way. But I think you can tell that kind of, it's just one man. It's not one man, damn it. It's Zorro. It's like, it's so cheesy, but I don't care because I'm there for the ride.
Yeah, and it is a ride as well.
It's
non-stop.
a proper ride.
Yeah.
Music's great as well. Like, I think it's James Horner who's obviously sadly died quite too young, but I think the kind of, I like the setting of it. It looks like, again, some modern blockbusters don't look like they're set in a real place. Like everything is green screen. Whereas this is very based in, I know it's set in California, but you've got the kind of very Spanishy feel to it. Everything is, it's baking hot sun and lush green trees and on all these huge hacienda houses that look amazing with fresh flowers and melted candles, and everyone's drinking little things of port. And I just think the music adds to that, the kind of trumpets and the brass and the guitars. I just think it really creates a world that sucks you in, entertains you, and leaves you feeling satisfied. It's like a good meal.
Yeah, I definitely felt that as well, because you do get a lot from it in that space of time for the 2+ hours that you've got. Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I think something that goes undersaid about this film is that she is, first of all, she's brilliant in it, because she's brilliant in most things, but also at no point really, to my memory, is she like a damsel in distress type character. She's like a love interest who also does kick a bit of arse.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. She isn't a damsel in distress, because they have that fight that kind of there's a lot of erotic fighting between her and Zorro. There is a lot
of, it's like shag fighting, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like
rolling in the hay,
phallic.
And he gets his sword and swipes her, and her clothes fall off, and like, oh. But when she's first introduced to Zorro, young Zorro, Antonio Banderas Zorro. So she sees him for the first time, and literally as soon as she sees him, like, you can see her get wet. Like, she's just like, just immediately, no substance. She hasn't spoken to him. She just sees him, and it's like, oh, and she can barely speak. And that was a bit, I thought, oh yeah, it's kind of the standard female role in these films.
I know what you mean there. So I wanted to ask you about that. First of all, that's a great way of putting it, and that's not any way I would do.
It's just how I thought, because she doesn't say anything, she doesn't make a noise, you just kind of see this weakness in her face. Yeah, but it's a great moment by Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I can't blame her. He's a sexy piece of ass in this film.
Listen, I wouldn't say no.
You wouldn't kick him out of bed for farting.
Absolutely not. Love a bit of Antonio.
But I was watching this with my other half, and it finished, and I was just saying to it, I just love it. I just think it's brilliant. And all the stuff I've just said, and she said, yeah. And I said, I can't really think of anything I don't like, because I know we like to be balanced and not try and say anything that we might talk about how a film has aged or what we didn't like. And she said, yeah, I'm not sure about the bit where he cuts all her clothes off, though.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I've never really thought of that, but I suppose I've watched this film since I was a kid, so never really thought of it like that. And then I always thought that was just a cheeky bit for the trailer. And then as I've got older, again, I guess I am a bloke, so I've never thought about it in that sense. But as a female, what would you think of that scene? Is it in poor taste? Has it aged poorly? Or is it just a cheeky bit of banter, sexiness?
I don't think it was in poor taste necessarily. I think a lot of the time, especially when you're looking back, because we've obviously come a long way in these past couple of decades in terms of understanding that maybe women don't want to be objectified all the time.
Who'd have thought?
I know, crazy, right? I wouldn't blame the film for it. I didn't feel like I did blame the film for it. It's just a product of your time. It's like, oh, well, he's got a blade. Let's see if he can slice her clothes off and she'll look like she's enjoying it. And it's like, ha, 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 isn't everyone having fun? But it didn't put me off the film. It didn't, I didn't think they were really trying to do it to objectify her. It was more in kind of in line with the silliness and the whole pantomime feel of it, and sort of just how silly it is, really. It wasn't like it was sort of being serious and kind of, heartfelt and poignant, and then they threw that in. They've set it up as a bit of a romp.
It's not something that you, like, it wouldn't offend you.
No, it's not. And it's not even being offended. It's just kind of seeing things and recognizing, oh, that isn't okay.
It's a little bit of objectification, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely. And you don't want young people who growing up watching films like that to think, oh, I'm a woman, so I guess I must just be okay when something like that happens to me. Or,
Yeah.
But again, films are not there to be, teachers, are they? It's entertainment.
Do you think they could get away with that now?
In a specific context, I think.
Yeah, in a more upbeat kind of...
Or just kind of pointing fun at it and in a satirical way and just kind of showing that it's funny when you're doing something like that to say, oh, isn't it funny how we used to do that?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we used to objectify women? Isn't it bad how we used to think? And now we definitely don't do, I mean, obviously we definitely don't do that, but in context of specific
Wouldn't know how
films.
to cut a woman's clothes off with a sword, to be fair.
It's a skill, man. He's obviously been training for that.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not easy. I think if you do it now, you could easily do it with both of them.
Yeah, if
So
he
you could
if he got his kit off as well.
Yeah, you could either do it where one of them does it to the other earlier in the film, then later on they do it, or
Yeah.
you could do it where they both do it to each other by mistake, or I suppose because it kind of starts with them both doing it.
Mhm.
They both cut each other's clothes off, and that's okay. It's a cheeky bit of I'm cutting your sleeve, and then obviously he bests her in the fight, and then literally voyeuristically stands back and purposely cuts her clothes off, and that's probably where it strays into a little bit of voyeurism and kind of that's not okay
Because it's not both of them anymore. It's
it's not
just
both of
her.
them.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you kind of you didn't particularly like?
I don't think. Well, thinking about it really, so I wasn't always 100% clear about what was going on and who was who and what everybody's role was as the characters. So some of the general types, not as in general, in the army sort of thing, the commanders of their ranks.
There's a
So
lot
those
of
guys.
there's a lot of guys in toffish suits sitting around tables.
That's the
Isn't
thing.
there?
They're
A
all
lot of
they're all
dons.
dressed so similarly.
They
So
all
it's
look
like,
the
right, who's
same.
this guy? Who's this one? So I wasn't always up to date with why things were happening, who was kind of revolting against who's the enemy. But it didn't dampen my enjoyment of it, I don't think. And like you said, if it's not really going for that, it's not really there for the finer detail. It's more for the fun of it and for the action.
It's not a film you watch and come away going, it was highly historically inaccurate.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. So obviously it is this big, fun, theatrical romp, and you kind of feel like it would be suitable for all ages if you looked at it at its surface, because it's kind of like just classic superhero movie.
PG.
Yeah. But within one of the opening scenes, someone does cocaine, like right on screen, and you so rarely see drug use. So it's one of the
It's
one of the commanders.
the main bad guy.
Yeah.
He takes snuff, doesn't he? So I don't know if it would be what we know as cocaine, but I suppose that's an interesting point. I didn't think that.
Is it cocaine though, or
He
is
takes.
it?
I
Is
think
it
it would be.
else?
I think it would be like an early what it became, some sort of either opium or. I mean, I don't know. It's something, isn't it? You see them in historical films. They take a little teeny spoon, and they take it is a white powder. I don't know enough about 18th century drug use.
Oh, don't you? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
shocked.
sorry. But I'd never noticed that before, actually. I suppose, and the fact I've seen this film, I must have seen this film over 20 times, and I've never thought anything of that. So I suppose maybe that goes some way to answering the question of does that make it not family friendly? But you are right. In a more in the age we're in now, where information is more readily available, perhaps someone at the right age might go, "Is he tipping coke?" And 2 minutes into a PG film.
Well, and it's because I thought I was in for, I don't know if childish is the right word, but child friendly, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like kind of almost a Disney-esque sort of thing is what I thought I was going to
Yeah.
get. And then he's doing that about a minute into the film. And I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe this is more grown up than I gave it credit for. And then some of the violence would suggest at that as well. There's a moment where all these blokes are stuck to these cacti and their dicks are on the cacti. And I think you see their dicks. I think
You see their asses.
you see their asses. So no one's hanging dong.
Because
but
you see untanned ass,
yeah,
but you don't see no dong.
yeah, no dong, unfortunately.
dong.
But maybe
Maybe in the director's cut where there's coke flying everywhere
Well,
and cock and ball aplenty.
But yeah, so they're all stuck to those cacti, and I thought that was quite it's funny, but it's also gruesome at the same time.
It's so cartoony, that, isn't it? Like having them all like stuck to a cactus. Taking aside what you've said in terms of the cocaine thing, the objectification of Catherine Zeta-Jones, I accept that. I get that. It's not aged well. However, I couldn't think of anything that I really disliked about this film.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a look at the critical reception, as we usually do. Before we go on to what it actually got, I wanted to have a look at what the critics actually said, so we can kind of say whether they're right or wrong. This will give you an idea of what it did score, but we'll come on to that. So the bad reviews, one of them says this: the story is not important. The clash of swords, the leaps and the tumbles, it's all very nice, but after 136 minutes, it becomes a bit much. I just think, like, get a bit of joy in your life, man.
It's too much fun. I enjoyed it too much.
There was too much sword fighting.
Too much going on, yeah.
Like
I just want a blank screen for 30 minutes.
If you're not into sword fighting and swashbuckling, the fuck are you watching Mask of Zorro for? I know he's a critic and it's his job, but like, I don't know if you can come away from any film like this. It's like coming away from Endgame and be like, there was just too many comic book characters in that film.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. That's for me. That's an invalid point. That's the point. If you could point out a particular performance, a particular element that you didn't like, but to say there was too much sword fighting and swashbuckling, well, what's the point of that? What's the stupidest thing to say?
As a word criticism in a film that is about those things. But also, I don't think you even have to enjoy those things to enjoy the film. Every time I watch a film, I put like a different set of eyes on every time.
Yeah.
Like, consider what the film, what genre it is, what it's trying to be, who its audience would be, what the director, what the writers are trying to get across. So I can watch a film like that and fully enjoy it because it's like, oh, this is what it's meant to be. It's like when you watch a Disney film and enjoy it, it's like, oh, it's because this is what it's meant to be. It's not that the script is fantastic or that, you know, all the characters are really three-dimensional or whatever. You just enjoy it for what it is, but you've got to put those different eyes on. You can't go and watch The Matrix and then go watch The Mask of Zorro and expect to see the same fucking thing.
Exactly.
I mean, are there similarities? Probably. A hero rising to the ranks.
Fight scenes. You always have to bring Keanu Reeves into
Can't
it.
help it.
Only one episode in.
Soz. What happened again?
So we'll move on to the actual critical reception. And we used to say we don't put numbers on it. But that kind of felt stupid because we are literally putting numbers on it by looking at Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb.
It's all about numbers, man.
So you haven't seen the critical reception.
I haven't.
We're going to do our best for you to not see it.
I'm going to try. I'm
So
going to
moving
try every
forward,
time.
People hopefully you have not seen the critical reception. What do you think it gets roughly?
Okay, so if I was just going off, so if you think about the genre, I suppose that could be quite divisive, and it might not be some people's cup of tea because it is very heavily that thing. Like, it's not kind of, you're not going to get your sci-fi jollies from it. You're not really going to get your
Some
thriller
people
jollies.
might think it's too much. Some people,
Maybe.
like the guy said, that would think it's too much. But if you do think it's too much, it isn't for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I would probably give it. Oh, I don't want to upset you, Josh. Like maybe a high 6 or a low 7. I don't know if I'd watch it again. This is it. I'm just here for one episode now. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I reckon I would say a 6. No, I'll say 7. Bang on, 7.0.
So you're pretty close.
Okay.
So it gets on IMDb a 6.7.
Okay.
And on Rotten Tomatoes, it gets a 72% from the audience and 82% from the critics. So I suppose that evens out about 7.5 or whatever.
Yeah, 82 time, man.
So do you think that's fair, overrated, underrated?
So I think the IMDb score is pretty much there.
You're about right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So why you're obviously proper pumped up about this film.
Yeah.
You love it.
I do.
Yeah. Why is that?
It's difficult to say because this is where it's subjective, isn't it? So I have fond memories of it and I take with me all the nostalgia of watching it as a kid, despite the fact that I didn't finish it in the cinema. I guess I just watched it at the right time and I just love that it's not trying to be anything other than a piece of pure entertainment. And I love that. And it just hits all the right notes for me in terms of the action scenes. I think as much as the script is cheesy, don't really care about that. Performances are great. I think takes you on, creates a great little world. I can't really say anything beyond that other than I just like it. I think it's underrated. I suppose it would be fair to say that actually I think it's underrated in a context that it's never remembered, it's never talked about.
In the same breath as those other films.
When people talk about these great blockbusters of the late 90s, like The Matrix or The Mummy, it's never remembered. And I think it's in there with great blockbusters. So you have great films, your Citizen Kanes, your Godfathers, but you also have great films which are there to entertain, like Terminator 2 and Speed, another Keanu Reeves film,
Speed,
The
brilliant.
Matrix. Again, if you're going more modern, obviously the MCU films are there to entertain as well as bring characters to life. And I think it's in that group. Not necessarily the MCU, that's something else, but I think it's in the vein of great blockbusters. You go in, you sit down, you get entertained, you feel good, you come away, you've had that escapism, and that's what it is. So I suppose I suggested it in the sense that it's underrated. I'm not sitting there thinking, this should have smashed Best Picture.
Yeah, it should be 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't think it is 10 out of 10. I just think it is a great blockbuster. So in my opinion, it's underrated in that sense because I just think it could be remembered a bit more favourably.
And I know you say not MCU, but it has got so many of the tropes of a superhero movie. Like it's the guy who wants to train up. They've got this kind of master-student relationship that leads to kind of humor and some really poignant moments. And then he goes on to succeed and win the girl and do all the things that he wanted to do.
And of course, for people who don't know, Zorro is the main influence for Batman.
Is that true?
He is the main influence for Batman.
I mean, I could totally see that.
Exactly.
Totally.
Which is what
All in black as well.
Which is what they're supposedly watching at the cinema when they leave and Martha and Thomas Wayne are shot. But it's usually changed.
Martha.
Yeah. So, that being said, have I won you round to underseen corner? Not underrated corner, underrated avenue. Would you say that it, regardless of the rating, is it something that could be remembered a bit more favourably? Is this a film that you'd show your kids and be like, let's have a good old time? You're going to say no, aren't you?
Sure. Well, I was trying to think about it and give a really sort of careful and considered answer. And I'm just thinking of some of the scenes, like some of the scenes I really did enjoy. And when they're blowing up the gold mine and stuff, that's fantastic. Like you get so many shots of these brilliant pyrotechnics and everything's like blowing up and that. And some of the script is very funny and the setting is great and the location's great. There was just something missing for me, I think. And I don't really know why. I might have been because Catherine Zeta-Jones was doing a Spanish accent. Sometimes I find that really distracting when someone's obviously doing not their own accent. But there was nothing that I hated about it.
Would you at least agree with me that it is a great blockbuster that is not often held up with other great blockbusters?
I would definitely give you that. I think if you're talking about those kind of films, this definitely has a place there. And if you're saying that it was like one of the main inspirations for Batman, I mean, surely it needs to be considered in that regard as well. So we'll say it is underrated.
Let's go. Let's say we agree in terms of it's a great underrated blockbuster. But I know what you mean. Those ratings are about, I'd say that's slightly low. I'd put it like with the critics at like 8. But,
of course you would.
But I know what you mean in terms of it's not an award-winning film. I just think it's a great piece of escapist blockbuster cinema. So there we go. It's a great piece of escapist blockbuster cinema. We're agreed.
Absolutely. I would agree with you on that, 100%.
So there we go. Our first film of the new continuous series is kind of underrated. If we can't agree, we'll just go to a Twitter poll. What do you guys think? Get in touch. Alice, next week it's your turn to pick. What are we going with?
So we're going to be watching Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Has that got Keanu Reeves in it?
It has, but I promise this was an accident. The film came into my head as one that I should definitely do. And then I was like, oh shit, fucking Keanu's in it as well.
You're a Reevesaholic.
No, I'm getting better, I promise.
So, thank you very much for joining me for the first episode. One of many, hopefully.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
If people want to get in touch with you, You're on all the usual places.
I'm all over the place. Just Alice Oliver, at Alice Oliver TV on Twitter, Alice Rian O on Instagram, and just Alice Oliver on Facebook. Yeah, give me a follow, give me a like.
So there we go then. As I said at the start of the episode, we'd love to hear from you. So do get in touch. What did you think of The Mask of Zorro? Do you agree with me, or are you wrong, like Alice? So it's filmsandthatpod at gmail.com. Again, if you've got any films you want to suggest to us, drop us a line, and we will be certainly looking to do some listener suggestions later on in a couple of weeks or so. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. It's at films_that on Twitter, and filmsandthatpod on Facebook and Instagram. Alice, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's goodbye from me, and cheerio. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves, all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.
If there's one thing that my family and friends know me for, it's being an amazing gift giver. I owe it all to Celebrations Passport from 1-800-Flowers.com, my one-stop shopping site that has amazing gifts for every occasion. With Celebrations Passport, I get free shipping on thousands of amazing gifts. And the more gifts I give, the more perks and rewards I earn. To learn more and take your gift giving to the next level, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
At Leidos, a brilliant mind is smart, but a brilliant team is smarter. A ship that finds enemy subs is smart, but an autonomous fleet, that's smarter. Defending against cyber attacks? Smart. Stopping attacks before they start? Smarter. And using AI tools is smart. But integrating trusted mission AI into your technology is smarter. We're not just making technology solutions in national security and health. We're making smart smarter. Leidos.